everyone. Welcome back to Red Devils Talks, brought to you by the Elite Football Show. Manchester United have just beaten Everton 2-0. We are through to the semi-final of the EFL Cup. We're all wearing, as you can see, Christmas jumpers because it's just before Christmas. Guys, thank you for joining me tonight. Marc, Ciaran and Joe are here with me. Fantastic victory through. We made it pretty easy in the end, didn't we? We didn't seem too bothered. They didn't really hold much of an attacking threat today, and job done, Marc.
Yeah, brilliant result. I thought we set up brilliantly. I thought for the first 30 minutes at least, we played some great football, really exciting to watch. Obviously, it's nice to be able to keep a clean sheet. I thought defensively, we were pretty good. I thought Tuanzebe on the right was actually quite a good addition. Forward well, and obviously it was always good to have his defensive capabilities there, and he covered Bailly very well. Yeah, really good performance. I think the last couple of games we've been a little bit concerned with starting on the front foot. We've certainly done that in the last two, and it's really good to see. And dare I say it, we're certainly in the title race at the moment. And yeah, dare I say it, I think that if we push on from this and really start to get into second and third gear, which we've spoken about, that could be a really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, early days, dare you say it, but no, we've got some great form. I mean, looking at it, Joe, United have in their last 7 Premier League games, 6 wins, 1 draw, through to the semi-final now, and we have hardly really got out of. I don't know, out of first gear. I was really happy with today. I thought that first 30 minutes was the best 30 minutes I've seen from United in a long, long time. Genuinely, I tweeted out, was it 9 shots in 27 minutes? Fantastic. They had absolutely nothing. And I'm really seeing this team click now, and that's exciting me. I mean, I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we've seen glimpses of it in games, haven't we? What's different now is we've seen glimpses of it in games all season, but what's different now is we're seeing it from the start of a game, and we're seeing it over a prolonged period of time. So you said there first 30 minutes. Now that might not seem a lot, but actually United have only been doing it for 10, 15-minute blocks even in games. So, I mean, to get 30 minutes, it is a bit of progress. And like I say, to get 30 minutes from the start of the game as well, which is really important. Our starts against Leeds and Everton have been really encouraging, to be fair, and hopefully we can do that again against Leicester, because we've got that awful kickoff time again after a Wednesday night game of 12:30. But yeah, no, I'm really encouraged, mate. But like I say, more encouraged by seeing it from the start, if you know what I mean, rather than having to wait until the end of the first half or the end of the second half or just after half time. They're coming out the blocks nice and quick, and it's nice to see. I think the only thing that they have got to work out when they play a team like this and the formation they did today is when they do have that first 30 minutes and things don't really go their way and they have to sit back a little bit more and the energy saps, have they then got the threat with the counter-attack like they want to as well? Because I just felt today when they needed just to have a bit of a breather after that first 30 minutes, they couldn't be effective really, because then you want him to play more on the counter-attack, and they didn't really have that option with the players today, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. Ciaran, let's talk about selection. I thought Ollie got selection absolutely spot on, set up spot on today. I was really excited with this team. Looking at midfield in particular, looking at, we've got Manchester fit in Pogba, Van der Beek, Bruno and Matic. For me, I did say earlier on, I think in the season, I think that's probably on paper our best midfield. I know McTominay and Fred have been pretty good. Well, very good in some games. But for me, I thought that was a good midfield, and United looked really, really slick. What were your thoughts on the setup? Because it was almost sort of a 4-2-3-1 at times, 4-2-2-2 at times. Finally, we're seeing Pogba and Bruno in the same midfield. We saw Van der Beek play again today. Is that something you want to see going forward a bit more, or do you think it doesn't offer enough protection defensively?
It all depends on who you're coming up against, really. I think it worked today because, look, from playing Everton before, I think they learned a lot about some of their attacking players, and without James in there, you can actually take that risk to play all three of them in terms of Van der Beek, Pogba and Bruno, and it worked because in that first, like we said, the first 30 minutes was probably the most direct attacking we've seen United do probably since Ferguson was here, because you looked at it and it was like I was saying it to, because I was watching the first half at my parents' house, and I was saying I don't know how we haven't scored, and it
Legally,
was,
I hope.
yeah. So I absolutely have no idea how we didn't score in that first 30 minutes. But then the same thing kind of happens, is that the game, when that happens and the team that is in control doesn't score, the rest of it seems to be a lull, and it becomes, okay, now you need to have that professional performance where you were dominating for a large period of the game. I don't think United lost control at all in the game. There's a couple of chances that Everton had, but then they had to make their chances count. And while it didn't have as many as we had in the first half, because I think it came out in the first 30 minutes, we had 9 shots on target, or 9 attempts and 3 on target, had 71% possession, and Everton only had, I think, 1 shot. Now that changed, like we saw, it went a little bit flat, and I guess that's normal when you're have that high intensity for so long. Where the selection is kind of, it can get a bit worrying, is if you have all those players in at the one time, what do you do to change the game? Because normally you'll see Martial and Rashford start, so you'll probably see the likes of maybe Greenwood come on, and if you're playing Van de Beek, Pogba, and Bruno, like, who else are you really going to bring on to change a game if you can't get that goal? Like today, we were able to bring on Martial and Rashford in the last kind of 25, 30 minutes, and it kind of changed that little bit of the pace when we did get to attack them. Scoring that goal by Cavani, look, after that goal went in, it could have been any score because Everton were pushing so many players forward. So yeah, look, it's great that it worked, because like we saw, first 30 minutes was really, really good. But I think in terms of can we play them more regularly, I think it just depends on who you come up against. If you come up against a team that's going to attack you, you can't play all 3 of them, because you get picked apart, and that's a simple part of it. Just in kind of what Joe said earlier in terms of the selection, I think Tuanzebe playing on the right kind of shows the backup they need for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, because Tuanzebe is not a right back, but he's good defending and he's no problem being on the ball and going forward. Like he's a centre back, but it shows that we do need some competition there at right back, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to come to you, Joe, about the right back. Let's talk about Axel, because Mark mentioned it as well. So he played at right back today, and I thought, okay, I'm interested to see how this works. I know Rob's been talking about him playing at right back for a long time, and I wasn't really keen. But actually, I thought he put in a really solid performance. Defensively, he's much more aware than Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka has become a little bit of a problem this season, but I want to give Axel some praise today, because he's naturally a centre back. We all know that. I know he can play midfield as well, defensive midfield at a decent level. But playing at right back, you see a lot of centre backs come in, Joe, and you see them start off, playing in the fullback position. Ben Godfrey today making some really brilliant runs. I thought that Axel was fantastic today. I think he's actually put forward a really strong case to say to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Wan-Bissaka is not playing too well. Defensively, he's poor. I thought attacking-wise, Axel was picking up better spaces. He's direct. He can drive with the ball. We haven't seen much of his crossing, so that's something that needs to be seen. But he's now an option, I think, for right back for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
He is, because obviously when I found out Wan-Bissaka was not going to play today after Ole's press conference, I just assumed Brandon Williams had come in today. I just thought it'd probably be Brandon Williams. And then I did a show yesterday, and they alerted me to the fact that, Axel can do that, don't forget. And actually what's good about Axel is he can play both sides, don't forget, because against Everton in the league, Luke Shaw, when he did his hamstring, I think Axel came on and had a bit of a cameo there for the last quarter of an hour, playing left back. So, no, it's a good option. And I think definitely if you've got Tellez on the other side as well, it works definitely, because he doesn't have to worry about getting forward so much, because if you want that attacking fullback, that can come from the left-hand side. And especially if on that side you've got Mason or you've got Rashford, you've got enough attacking threat down that side. Axel can just concentrate on what he does best, which is defending and being strong in that position. He doesn't have to worry about his attacking output too much, because, like I say, we have Tellez on the left. We have enough attacking intent going forward, especially when Pogba's on the pitch well. So, I like him there, to be fair. And if he has to tuck inside or he has to cover the centre-backs, he's going to be able to do that really well as well, because he's a centre-back himself. So he's going to see danger in that centre-back position.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I'm going to read out some comments. Guys, keep your comments coming in. We want to hear what you think. Fantastic. Man United are in the semi-final. Let's hope we can go one better and actually get to the final and win this competition. There's a great comment here from Lakesh saying, after this win, Mark, we have to take this tournament seriously. It would be a waste if we don't consider how insignificant we don't consider how insignificant this tournament is. Look, for me, Mark, sorry guys, I had a little bit of mouthful there trying to read that. It's a little bit late for me. I've had a long day. I've had a really long day and I couldn't read there for a second. Mark, talking about it. So there's big debate going on. Guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment. But a lot of fans a bit split on this, saying we should always say EFL Cup, it doesn't matter. But for me, I don't know about you, but I think it's really important United win this because Ollie needs to get that first piece of silverware. And the players, this is a young group of lads. Some of them have won trophies. Paul Pogba's won the World Cup, but not with United. Apart from maybe De Gea and, dare I say, Phil Jones, there's not many title winners in this squad. So every little trophy is, a rung on the step to that next bit of development, that next stage of progress. So are you of the view that Man United have to win this tournament now? They have to at least, whether it's EFL Cup, it doesn't matter. They just need silverware.
Most definitely. I think we've been saying this for weeks, really. I think the unfortunate thing about Man United at the moment is they don't really have a winning mentality. And we've said many times, in order for Ollie to break his duck, to break the curse, to break the negativity, he has to win something and get a stamp on this team. He needs to be able to shrug all of those frustrations off. United, this is, I don't mean to sound ridiculous, but this is Manchester United. We are in there. I know we haven't been for the last 7 years, but we need to be in there to win everything. And if it is the easier trophy to win, then you go on and win it. It does frustrate me when I see fans say that they shouldn't be in for it. It's a Mickey Mouse Cup and it doesn't mean anything, but it absolutely
It's arrogance, though, isn't it, Mark?
It is
a little bit.
It absolutely is. But at the moment, we can't be arrogant because we haven't won much in the past 7 years. So let's just try and build upon something, get something first, and then we can build that arrogance back. And I don't mean that in a malicious way, but we've got to have a starting block, and it does frustrate me. We've got to be in everything. Last year he got to the semi-finals of the FA Cup and the Carling Cup and didn't make it through that. So now we're back into the semi-finals. So his ultimate goal at the moment, we'll take it one game at a time, is to get through this and then get into the final and then see what happens. But no, I can't agree with anyone that says that we need to be there to win it, and this is the perfect competition in order for Ollie to do that.
Well said, Mark. I'm going to read out a few comments before I come to you, Ciaran. So Ahsoka, Carabao Cup's importance lies in the confidence and belief it will give the players, not the prestige. That's why it's important. Don't think anybody at United particularly cares about the cup per se. That's a fantastic point. Joseph was saying here, 9 changes from Leeds as well should be mentioned. Exactly. I mean, look, you saw those changes and we still fielded. Pogba didn't play against Leeds. Van de Beek had 20 minutes. Matic didn't come on either, I believe, or he might have come on near the end. I don't know if someone can correct me on that. Axel didn't play as well. Bailly, who I thought was solid today, which is fantastic. Ciaran, there's another comment here. Umka, thank you. Yes, I'm moving to Ireland. That's why Ciaran's not happy today, because he's realizing that there's going to be another lockdown. I'm not moving to Ireland probably for another 6 months. So Ciaran's got to wait before he can watch the game with me.
I've heard Ciaran's got plans to come to England now, but
yeah, he's getting the first job in London. And Ciaran, I'm going to come to you because Umka's got a question here, which I think is a very valid one. With a 2-man defensive pivot, will it work with Axel as a right back? That's a really great question because, well, United will probably go with that double pivot of McFred on the weekend. I'd be very, very surprised if they don't. And if they're going to do that and Axel plays at right back, that's quite a defensive lineup, isn't it? So can Ollie go ahead with something like that? Because United still got to play on the front foot for me. Doesn't matter who the opposition is. They've still got to look and have that attacking intent, which they did tonight.
Yeah, it can work. I still don't think he drops Arno Wan-Bissaka. I think he still is going to play him. But yeah, look, you can definitely do that because you look at Tuanzebe and defensively he's good. And you saw tonight that when he's going forward, he does pose a threat. He will kind of go past the last man, which really you don't expect from centre backs if they're being put out onto the kind of wing as well. But look, I think Axel's played in pretty much every defensive position. He's played defensive midfield, left back, centre back, right back. So yeah, he can definitely do that, and it's probably a better option stylistically if you're having the two defensive midfielders or the two kind of defensive central mids, because it means that at least you have that width, you have that depth, and you saw it with Axel today. Is he has no problem pressing his opposition as well. Something you don't really see as much with Wan-Bissaka. He wants to let the opponent get the ball so he can make those tackles, but I think Axel is there trying to intercept it before the ball gets to the defender. He's a bit more risky. So yeah, I think it can definitely work. I could go on for ages talking about Axel Tuanzebe. I've said it for a while. He's one of my favorite players that's come through the academy. He just needs to get his opportunity. He needs to play, because you look at him, he's confident. He's like I think it was one moment of the game I was watching it, and you're seeing Axel tell the centre backs what to do, telling the midfielders where they should be. That's what you need from a defense, and this was my criticism against Sheffield United. The defense wasn't talking to each other enough. Tonight it was completely different. You have Bailly, who's always talking. You have Maguire, who, look, he is as well. But then you also have Axel, who's talking. So all three of them kind of, while Axel was playing at the right back position, you're still seeing them shift in kind of centrally as well. But all three of them were talking to each other, and that's what you want. You want your defense communicating with each other. In terms of the defensive midfielders, if we're playing that with, as we said, McTominay and Fred, I think it could definitely work. Do I think it will happen? Probably not, because I think Ollie won't. He has his favourites. He's not going to drop Aaron Wan-Bissaka because of one game for Axel at right back, because look, you can go back to it before, but Ollie has said that Axel is a centre back. So realistically, he'd prefer to have him there. But it's always a great option having defenders that can pretty much slot in, because look, we've been ravaged with injuries over the last couple of years defensively, and the more players that you can have like that can, like I think it was Joe said it earlier, where he slotted in when Luke Shaw got injured for when we played Everton the first time at left back. He's now played right back. He's played centre back this season. Look, it's all good experience for him, because there will be times when we're going to need him.
Yeah, I think it's always good to have a bit of versatility, isn't it? To be honest with you, Tuanzebe's not too dissimilar to Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I think you're absolutely right that his positional awareness is far better. That's something we've criticised Aaron for a lot recently. He's also a very quick player. I think he's got a lot to prove, and we saw that today. I think he was eager to get forward as well and prove a bit of a point that maybe he could be in contention for that sort of thing. He won't want to play there, but that's definitely an option. But yeah, it's not too dissimilar to Wan-Bissaka. You know, we've seen on many occasions that Wan-Bissaka doesn't really get forward. He is good defensively. He's good with those sliding tackles, but his positional awareness is not as good as Tuanzebe, and I think that was very evident today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Joe, I'm going to come to you. We'll move on to Cavani. My last word on Wan-Bissaka and also on Brandon Williams. It looks like Williams will actually be going on loan. I think Soko in the comments was asking. I believe it by Leverkusen, and we spoke to Glenn from the Total Saints podcast as well. I was talking to him a couple of days ago, and the rumors are that Southampton still want him. But the problem is that he needs to play regularly, and if he's going to go to Southampton, he'll be behind Kyle Walker-Peters and he'll be behind Ryan Bertrand, so he'll be first choice on either side. So United have got to be very careful where they're going to send him on loan. I don't think United have used the loan system well enough, so I'm really interested to see what they do with him. I think he's a good talent.
I like the idea of going to Germany as well, Haider. Sorry to jump in there.
I do as well.
Germany, I think already we've seen that the Bundesliga has been an effective place for young English players to go. I think I mean, John Joe Kenny, I think, of Everton went to Schalke last year, and Schalke are obviously having a real difficult year, but I watched a few games when they came back before England, and actually John Joe Kenny was their best player, to be fair, and he developed really nicely in a struggling team over there. And I think Matonda, is it Charlie Matonda, is it, who went to Schalke as well? He was getting in their team also. One thing is, when they go to Germany, they're going to play Haider, which is what you say. If he goes to Southampton, will he play? I think if he goes to Germany, if they want him, he plays. So I'm just looking at the draw here, by the way. Manchester United have come out first, so we're at home. But I'm not. Oh, against Manchester City. There you go. City.
Oh, of course we're against Man City. Let's get revenge for last season. No, that's brilliant.
Yeah, Haider, sorry. Do we know?
I actually don't know. If anyone does know in the comments, Ciaran, you might know this. Is it one leg? Or is it going to be?
I actually don't know.
It's
I
normally
assume
2 legs,
it's
isn't
one
it?
leg.
But, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, let's move on to Cavani. Joe, I'll come to you first on this. This is a great comment from Joseph here. Cavani showed that if you give him a chance, he will score goals. Edinson Cavani is a player who I've always liked, even before when he was at Man United. I liked him at Palermo years ago now. I liked him at Napoli. He was fantastic.
Napoli was prime Cavani.
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. And then he moved, obviously, to PSG. He almost played second fiddle to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who we had the absolute honor of having him for a season. And obviously then he got injured. But he was, again, a player that I really enjoyed at United. Missed a bucket load of chances. But Cavani's someone who scores goals. 250 goals, I believe, in the last, 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. Just behind Messi and Ronaldo. That just tells you the amount of goals he's scored. That is huge for Man United and this young squad, isn't it? To have someone there with that pedigree. Now, he misses chances. Okay, that's the fact of the matter. That is one of Cavani's biggest weaknesses, is that he misses chances. I spoke to Jeremy Smith, a French journalist, before he joined. He said Cavani will work his socks off. He has a great mentality. He'll cover every blade of grass. He will score goals. He'll score a lot of goals, but he'll also miss a lot of chances. And something we did see today is actually I don't think he played particularly well. I thought he was a bit wasteful. He's been out for a little bit, so he's come back in. Obviously, he's been injured. But as Joseph said, he scored when it mattered. And what an absolute rocket of goal. How big is that for Man United? Because this time last year, we had Carlo coming off the bench. So that shows the progress in the squad and the personnel and the quality. So talk to me about your thoughts on Cavani. And it's so nice, isn't it, to see United be able to field quality like that in almost a second string side. I'm saying that in inverted commas because there's a lot of good quality out there today.
Just really quickly on the squad, Haider, look at the 2 lineups against Leeds and again tonight. That answers all your questions you need to know about this squad and the depth that it's got at the moment. The fact that we can make 9 changes and that team on paper can still look as good as it looked, I think. So, but on Cavani, no. I'll tell you what I love about it, Haider, is he misses chances, but he never lets his head drop. He keeps going. He keeps putting himself in the positions where he can get another opportunity, and sooner or later he'll score. It reminds me a lot of Andy Cole back in the days. Andy Cole was the kind of striker. Sometimes he needed 5 or 6 opportunities, but he was fortunate in that United team because he had, players who could who put chances on the plate for him. So every game he'd get 5 or 6 chances. So he'd get the opportunities. And that's a little bit what it's like for Cavani in this team now. We are a team that's creating more and more chances. We had 26 shots against 27 shots against Leeds at the weekend. I can't remember. I'm not sure how many we had tonight. I know you said we had 9 in the first 27 minutes. I don't know how many we ended up with. But if we're going to create chances, then Cavani missing them doesn't really matter because he'll get more chances. Because like I said, he'll keep putting himself in position to score. And that's what I like about him. I do feel sometimes with Martial and Rashford, if they miss a few chances, it almost as if they then just take themselves wide, if you know what I mean, and take themselves out of the situation rather than, being willing to put the head on the block and miss another one, because the law of averages tell you the more chances you get, the more you'll score. And obviously, especially with the finishing ability that we have in our attacking lineup, they just have to be a bit braver at times, I think, and take and put themselves in that position. But that's what I like about Cavani, because his experience tells him that, look, I've missed. I'm not going to get down about it. I'm going to make that run again. I'm going to be found again. And next time I'll just hit it right. And the goal that he had today, he had a few positions like that where he had a shot at the keeper and he seemed to just hit the keeper every time. But this time he put it in the bottom corner, and that's his class and that's his experience, in my opinion.
Quickly to add before Ciaran, you come in, we had 19 shots as well. Thank you, Ahsoka, for that.
Mate. Thank you, good number stats.
But Ciaran, he scored from outside the box, I believe, or just on the edge. So he's not just one of those players that's a poacher in the box. He can do it outside the box. That's massive for United, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I think we all knew what we were getting in Cavani. He's an all-round striker. It's something that we've mentioned before that we've missed. We haven't really had under, probably since when you mentioned Zlatan. But still, I think Cavani's he is a bit more all-round, where he can move, go out to the right. You constantly saw him go out to the right wing and Mason come inside. You didn't get that with Zlatan when we had him here. But you're also seeing like some of the differences in some of the other strikers. You can clearly see the likes of, I think Mason's had a pretty decent first half, where I don't think I've seen Mason make those runs before where he got that header. And honestly, I don't know how that didn't go in, because I looked at it, even on the replay, I'm like, I don't understand how that ball didn't go in the net. But so there's, not only are we seeing the impact on the pitch with Cavani, we're seeing him score some great goals. And like you said there, Haider, that he misses chances. Yeah, he does. But the thing is that he's the one that's getting in those positions to actually have those chances be available. I think the difference is when you look at him, Rashford and Martial, is that the style of chances that Rashford and Martial get, you don't get that many chances in a game. So if you miss, there's a big problem there. Like we saw it at the end of the game. Look, everything we're going for, but let's say if that was still 0-0, we had one of those counterattacks, that miss by Rashford or the miss by Martial in the second half, you can't miss those chances. You have to score those. And I think that's the difference between the two, is when it comes to that point in the game where a striker needs to step up and score, Cavani tends to do that. When the moment gets higher, Cavani tends to score those goals. We haven't seen that from Rashford and Martial recently anyway. They've missed a lot of the big chances in kind of big moments of the game. So, look, I think if our strikers can take anything from Cavani, his movement, and also not being afraid to shoot, even if you miss, doesn't matter. Get back in that position and take the shot again. Because if you get in those positions, you'll get more chances. And look, I think the goal today from Cavani, you don't see that type of goal from him the odd time. When you look, I think it's the same with what I said last week when we talk about what's a Manchester United goal, what's a Edison Cavani goal. And it's not normally a rocket from outside the box, but he has that in his arsenal. And look, it's great to have that at the club now. It just means there's more options available to Solskjaer, especially during a period over Christmas where we're going to have whatever it is, 4 or 5 games coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I can confirm as well that we are playing Manchester City, and it is actually one leg, as Joe mentioned earlier. So that's massive in a one-off game, and we're home. I believe we're the first one picked out the hat.
Yeah, and then
massive on board. We need to go and win this. And then Spurs have got Brentford in the other game.
Come on, Brentford.
Yeah, so come on, Brentford. I mean,
I'd rather play Spurs, to be fair. I think if they got to the final, at least they'd attack us, if you know what I mean, and they give us a threat. I think with Tottenham, they'll probably just set everyone back. So, and then that's where we struggle.
Exactly. But for me, I mean, Mark, I'm going to come to you about Van der Beek, but Onka's got a comment here, which I'm going to read out. So, thoughts on Telles always being on the halfway line. Mostly it was Matic and centre backs as a back line. Telles' job is to keep pushing forward. Something, Mark, that we've seen recently, and we saw this in quite a few games where when Telles has played, Ollie's asked him to push forward a lot further. So he's almost playing as a left winger, like he used to play at Porto. And what you've seen is actually Wan-Bissaka would come in, you know, sort of as a third centre back, asymmetric fullbacks, what Jose used to do. But looking at Telles, I thought he had a good game today. He's not really hit the heights. It takes time. Look, we know that he's got to settle. He's been good when he's played, but he hasn't really hit the heights that we expected. But I thought he was good today. He was whipping in some nice crosses. What were your thoughts on Telles? Because I think as of now, this might be a little bit controversial. I think Luke Shaw's probably the number one choice right now. Whether he's a long-term choice, that's a different question. But right now, I think Luke Shaw defensively is better. And I think Ollie trusts him more. But it's promising, isn't it, that Telles has that extra bow to his arrow in terms of his crossing. His corners are fantastic. So what are your thoughts on Telles so far in his short time at Man United?
Yeah, I think you're right. He hasn't hit the heights that we expected. But, you know, when you're coming from a different league, he had COVID and he had to recover from that. And I like him. I think he's very promising. He's got a good experience. He's in his sort of prime age now. And I like to see that in someone. If we need to go attacking, we've said this so many times before, you're absolutely right, Luke is better defending, but he's better at attacking. And I think depending on how you approach the game and what you want out of it, you use either or. Telles, I really like him. I think it's nice to see him further forward, gives us a little bit more, and yeah, and obviously whipping in the balls, the corners, gives us another dimension with the free kicks, and hopefully he will come into his own. Hopefully we'll see more of that. And when we need, you know, an attacking-minded player going down the left-hand side, which is something we need on the right. So if we didn't have that on the left, we'd be moaning about Luke Shaw not getting forward enough. So I just hope that obviously he can keep going as he is, keep improving, and eventually we'll see more from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I can hear two of you, Mark. There's a bit of an echo.
Yeah, I kept getting that as well. I'm not sure if that's me.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, hopefully it won't persist. But Ciaran, I'm going to come to you in a second. But Ahsoka's saying here, Tellez starting tonight means Shaw gets a nod against Leicester. For sure, I would agree with that. And Lukesh is saying over here in the comments, Luke Shaw will go on to be a great defender. I'm going to let you answer that one because I know you feel strongly. What I will say about Luke Shaw is that he's played his best football since his leg break under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. There's no doubt about it. But he's just never hit the heights. And look, it's not his fault. That was a terrible leg break. I mean, it looks like Omko over here saying he feels a bit different. Shaw is improving to be a good on the attack in recent games with defensive awareness. I just think the bar's pretty low, Ciaran, with our fullbacks. I wouldn't say we've got the best fullbacks, especially offensively, in the top 6. And I just think that because the bar is low, when there are little peaks in performance, and this is not, look, I wouldn't take anything away from Luke Shaw. Defensively against Manchester City, he was absolutely fantastic. He was absolutely brilliant. But going forward, I don't think he's someone who's you could consider a really good attacking fullback. I don't think defensively he's a great defender, but he's a good player, right? He's an average player. But if United obviously want to go and win stuff, Alex Tellez has more of a ceiling going forward to provide that. Defensively, it's a bit of an issue. But yeah, talk to me about the Tellez, Luke Shaw fight for that left back spot.
Yeah, I completely agree with the point that you just made there, that I think the bar is really low because you have to compare what we've seen before. If we're going to compare it to the levels that Patrice Evra had, because look, where we're trying to get to is to win titles, right? So you want to be able to get to that level. Look, I'm still going to say it, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. I still think Luke Shaw is a liability defensively. The only difference is the other wing backs that we've had aren't defensive wing backs. You look at Brandon Williams, he's okay. You look at Alex Tellez, he wasn't brought in to be a defensive left back. We've been screaming for someone that with a bit of attacking ability in one of our wing backs. So we bring in Alex Tellez, and then suddenly people go on him because he's going too far forward. Yet that's what he was brought in to do. We did a show before back in, I think, September, Haider, on what Ollie likes to do and what he did with Mulder. He always had his left wing back. Their average position was at the halfway line because they wanted the left wing back to press and the right wing back stayed back. That's what he wants to do. With Luke Shaw, the problem is he doesn't have the ability to run up and down the wing for the whole game. I think by now we know what Luke Shaw is. He's probably an average defender, an above average attacker, which it should have been a lot more than that. But we know what happens. After he gets a good run of games, he gets injured. We've gone through this. How long has Luke Shaw been at the club? Since what, the first season of Louis van Gaal or the second season? I think it was the first one. I think it was after Moyes came in, he was signed. Like, how much longer do we have to have before, like, okay, well, he can get to here? He's not like a 21 or 22-year-old. We know what Luke Shaw is. He's never going to be a brilliant attacker or a brilliant defender. So the club need to try and decide, well, what's the next options? They brought in an attacking fullback. So both of them have a job to play in the team. If you are going to attack teams and you want to play more on the front foot, you play Alex Tellez. If you want to be more defensive, you play Luke Shaw. It's very straightforward. Against Leicester, yeah, I think it makes sense. You play Luke Shaw because Leicester are just going to try and get you on the counter-attack because they have Jamie Vardy, so it makes sense. But then you also have to know that you're substituting the attacking intent with Tellez. Also, if you're playing the likes of Cavani, playing Luke Shaw probably doesn't help because Cavani likes to make the early runs. Tellez crosses it quick. Luke Shaw doesn't. He tries to get probably a 1-2 pass and then crosses it in. That's the way he works it into the box. So again, it just depends. For me, I've seen Luke Shaw enough. When we were hitting the heights last year, and probably even just after lockdown, I'll still say, you can go back and watch, the worst player defensively on the pitch was Luke Shaw. And you can go back and watch it. There was times when he really wasn't aware of what he was doing. There was a couple of goals that I saw. I can't remember what game it was. I think it may have been one of the games in Europe, that it was like a header that there was two of his players with them. And instead, he's not looking at where he heads the ball, heads it to the opposition. The opposition then counter-attacked, and he wasn't even running back to try and get it, and they score. we've seen that. We saw it in was in the Champions League again, or maybe one of the Premier League games, where when he loses the ball, he doesn't tend to actually bust a gut to get back. Like, look at what Bruno did earlier today. He lost the ball. They had a 2-on-1, and he tried to get back as quick as he could. He stopped basically that play from happening. For me, Luke Shaw doesn't do that enough, and that's the problem. We're not going to get to the levels that we want because we just don't have the player that can do both defensively and attacking. So, like I said, you're substituting one for the other. It just depends on the team you come up against.
Yeah, it's a good point. Guys, we're going to move on to the next topic. We're going to talk about Van der Beek today because I think that's important to have a conversation about him. And then we'll finish with a little quick preview of the game on Boxing Day. And then we'll wrap up for our last show before Christmas. So, Joe, let's talk about Donny van der Beek. I'll come to you after, Mark, because I know you obviously are a big fan of Donny van der Beek. Talented player, Mark. Joe. Talented player. But it's difficult for him to come into the side when he doesn't play. He plays 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. He gets a start here. It's not easy when you're trying to learn the system, when you're trying to integrate into the team. You have to play regularly. That's really important. And he's not getting regular minutes, or what I consider regular minutes, to be able to build that confidence. And you find that when players don't play regularly, what they do is that they're very safe in their passing. That's the first thing you find. They don't want to make a mistake because they want to impress. And also it takes them a little bit of time to get into gear. And I think what we're finding right now is I don't think Ollie's quite figured out, and it will take time, but I don't think he's quite figured out where Van der Beek's best position is. I think that's the biggest thing. Now, what I will say about Donny van der Beek, because I wasn't particularly impressed with him today. What I did like is making runs. He was playing further forward. He was making runs into the box. No, Mark, hold on. The reason why I say this, Mark, look, we all like Donny van der Beek. We've got to be fair because we like Donny van der Beek because he's a new player. He's talented, but you've got to be fair with the assessment of the performances. And I don't think he was impressive today. That doesn't mean he's not a good player, but Ollie hasn't really figured out where to play him. And if we're picking a team on Saturday against Leicester, Van der Beek's the last choice midfielder that I would choose. Ooh, a little bit of an echo there. But that's he's the last player I'd choose in the midfield.
Yeah, mate. It's nothing personal about Van der Beek. I mean, there was nobody more gas than me when we re-signed Paul Pogba, mate. And I've had to sit and stomach us have to watch poor performances from Pogba, see him not fit into this team. So just because you like him or just because you're a fan of him and he doesn't play well from time to time doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong with that. I think, but you do have to acknowledge when it's just not working. And I think you've hit the nail on the head, Haider. I think it's just we haven't found a position for him in the team yet. We haven't found the place, we haven't found that role for him in the team. And I think someone touched upon it before the game today on Sky Sports in the studio, and I actually tend to agree. If you look at what Donny wants to do, he wants to arrive late into the box. He wants to have runs into the box. We've already got a lot of players who do that, to be fair, Haider. You know what I mean? We don't have that problem of, okay, we probably don't have a lot of people doing it from midfield, you could argue, but when you've got the front three that we've got, we don't really need that fourth man running from wherever, because there's always, the options are always there. And obviously Bruno's playing as a 10. So if anyone's going to make that late run, it's probably Bruno. So, I just think, it's difficult at the moment. And then we've seen if you put him deeper, it doesn't work. And I don't blame him for that either. At the moment, physically, he's not strong enough to be a number 6 in the Premier League. It's as simple as that, because he's just going to get out-muscled by the stronger players. But I think he'll come good. I think eventually either Ollie will find that position for him in the team, or Van der Beek will adapt his game in such a way in which he can play a role within United. And, they've got to have that discussion. Does Donny want to change what he is? Does he want to become a different player? Or is it on Ollie now to just try and shoehorn him in the team another way? And because I don't think you want to lose what Donny's got, because Donny's got some really nice attributes, to be fair, neat and tidy on, but all those Dutch attributes that he's got,
he's a clever player.
Any football team, they're welcome in any football team. So you don't want to change him too much. But I do think when I look at him still, and it's weird to say because he's 23, he's not a young lad, he's a man. He's younger than I thought he was, but he's actually, he's not his past. He does need to fit that shirt a bit more still, I think he could do with just get a bit bigger if he's going to be an effective Premier League player.
I agree. That's a fantastic summary. Mark, I'm going to come to you, but going to read out Santos's comment. With Bruno's hold on the number 10 position, Van der Beek is not going to start over him. That's a very fair comment and very true. We all know that. I was a little bit surprised Ollie, one, didn't rest Bruno, but we won, so it doesn't matter. But two, I would have taken him off as well. Bruno is the key to Man United this season. You can't run him into the ground. And Santos is saying here, he will start in cup games. Maybe next season, Donny will play more. Lokesh has got a comment here. Thing is, Donny needs time, and Ollie has found a 4-2-2 formation to fit him in. But I just don't think he was particularly effective today. And it's not only his fault. Like, he's playing in the 4-2-2-2. He's either playing on the left or the right. He played on the left today in the first half. So he likes to operate behind the striker. We know that, or as a number 10 centrally. So that takes time to adapt. I think that it was interesting that he played further forward and Paul Pogba played next to Matic. I think that was the right decision, Mark. But we've seen glimpses, or we saw glimpses early on, but we're not seeing, and it's not his fault. He's not playing regularly, but we're not seeing the Donny van de Beek that we know and what we want to see. We all knew at Ajax what sort of player he was. But the problem is, Mark, that I think fans also, there's two things to Donny van de Beek. One, that I think fans don't actually realize what his best position is, because you see different points, and he's not a number 6 right now. I think he can develop into a number 6 in a double pivot, but he's not right now. Second thing as well, so I think fans overrate Donny van de Beek. I really do think that's the case. I think the fact that he's come with such a high reputation, but I think fans are expecting things from him which just aren't realistic. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Listen, I'm not silly. He wasn't particularly great today, but I feel for him. I feel like he's in a very difficult position at the moment. He's had a lot of minutes out. He hasn't had too many minutes playing. And unfortunately, sometimes people come in like Bruno and hit the ground running. Some players, like Alex Telles, we've just spoken about, don't come in and hit the ground running, and he needs a bit more time. I think at Ajax, when he was a lot younger, he played a lot more in a number 6 position. And actually, for Ajax over the last 2 seasons, his highest scores on Who Scored were as a defensive midfielder. So he does know that trade, and there's certainly room for improvement for him to learn that for Man United in a double pivot. And as Santos said correctly, you're trying to find a spot in front of Bruno Fernandes. He is our best player by a country mile, and if Ollie doesn't have to rest him, he probably should have started. I was a bit shocked that he did start. He's not going to take him out, so he's already fallen at the first hurdle. But
And to be honest as well, Mark, Bruno is probably on right now the best number 10 in the world.
Oh, I said this the other day. I said I tweeted this actually. I said that he is probably the best number 10 in the world, absolutely no debate, and he'd get into every single team. So can you really blame that? Can you really blame that? But this is where we need to look at it from the other perspective. This is a great problem to have. We know what Donny can do. We've seen it. We've seen it even the little glimpses that he's played, and we know what's there. He is only 23. He's got a lot to learn. He's got a huge ceiling. So if we do lose Pogba, or if we change the system, Bruno gets injured, whatever that may be, we will be able to find the right position for him, and he will come good. He wasn't particularly good today, absolutely, but he's just in an unfortunate position at the minute.
Yeah, good point, Ciaran. I'm going to come to you in a second. I'm just going to read out this really good comment here from Masoko. We won't see the best of Van der Beek till he gets a more settled position in the team. Besides not playing regularly, he's played everywhere else but centre forward. That's not good for him. It's a very fair point, isn't it? I mean, look, when you sign a player, I still sit here sometimes and think, I think Ollie wanted him. Yes, if you're offered Donny van der Beek from Ajax, you guys have probably heard the quotes that people say about Ajax's academy, obviously, but this is what they do as well in the academy, that when they're playing the opposition, the coach expects them to be able to, if there's an issue that they need to sort out on the pitch in terms of tactical awareness, or there's an issue, the coach expects the players to be able to say to the coach, this is what we do. They talk about it, and which is just so alien for us, because in England it's like, right, just the fans, the players will listen to the coach, and the coach will tell them what to do, and they'll go out and do it. The intelligence is there. You can see he's intelligent. But I think the other issue is, I mean, Mark did mention as well. Yeah, he's right. Who scored? Playing at number 6 was his highest score actually at his time at Ajax. But this is English football. It's a completely different animal, isn't it? And
that's the difference for me.
Yeah.
I was
And that's
saying that, and I'm saying, look, I don't doubt these stats. I'm not big on stats, you know that, Haider. I don't doubt and question these stats, but it's one thing being a number 6 in Holland in the Eredivisie. It's another thing being a number 6 in the Premier League in England with the type of players that we have.
But saying that, we know that he's got it in his locker, and all he has to do is adapt like every other player that comes to this country. Do you know what I mean?
Physically, he just needs to get stronger to play that position. Yeah. He's got all the talent in the world. On the ball, he's brilliant. He's neat and tidy. He can start attacks. I don't question that. But physically, he will just get bullied in this league, like every player who would coming from over there, apart from maybe Luis Suarez, who's Uruguayan, who already had all the attributes. But yeah,
but that's the thing. That's the thing. What I do want to ask you, Ciaran, I want to ask your opinion first. But also, another thing about football is it's important, obviously, being good on the ball. That's really important. But there's so much more to it. And I think right now, as it stands, I go back to the game against Istanbul. We were fantastic. When Donny played deeper next to Fred, brilliant on the front foot. But defensively, we were all over the shop. That double pivot was everywhere. And that's the problem. You see that sometimes when the game looks entertaining, we're like, oh, that was really good. We're so good going forward. But actually, defensively is a big problem. You know, your structure is important. I think right now, Donny doesn't have that in his locker. I think it's the physicality and the positional, the awareness. But that I don't think he can't learn that. I think it's more to do with the fact that he just needs time to adapt to it. But he's not playing in that position regularly, is he? Because let's be honest, weekend will be Fred and McTominay. If Ollie had to choose a second choice, double pivot, it would probably be Matic and Pogba. So then you've got Donny. Where's he going to play? Number 10, we've already said Bruno obviously is there. And I think we need to see a bit more rotation there, see Bruno rested a bit more because we've got to save him. Because if we're in the title race, we've got to be there or thereabouts. We've got to have our players fresh. But there's a little bit of an issue then. What's Ollie going to do?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think the whole thing is that whether we like it or not, the reason why Donny was brought in was because we needed more rotation. We needed more depth in midfield. Because, look, we can go back to every single show any of us were a part of after lockdown, and we're all saying we have our starting 11, we have nobody else to come in after. Donny, he gives you a different style of midfielder that we don't have at the club. But at the same time, it's hard to take out players like Pogba. It's hard to take out players like Bruno, especially when they're playing well. Look, there's still a lot of games to play. Like, I think a lot of people are freaking out. Yes, it's December, but look, we started at the end of September around that time. He's going to get to play games. The thing is, with players like that, it does take time to kind of get used to Premier League football. I don't think he has a specific position in terms of that team where you can say, put him in there and he'll be great in the majority of the games he plays. He won't. If you play him at number 6, there are going to be teams that can run rings around you because he's not that great of a number 6. Can he learn it in the Premier League? Absolutely he can. He's, like you said, Haider, one of the things that people don't actually take into account about midfielders or even just footballers in general is the footballing intelligence, that IQ that's really, really important. And you actually see a lot of people go for now. We talk about analytics all the time. And one of the key things that kind of people actually forget about is you do need smart players because things happen in a game where it's a 1-second decision. And if you make the right decision, you can score a goal, you can stop someone from scoring. If you hesitate, especially in the Premier League, which we say the intensity is really, really high compared to a lot of other European leagues, it takes that one split second that you were thinking for that extra second, and suddenly whatever you could have done is gone. So it is important to have intelligent players, and that's what I really like about Donny. You can see that when he's passing the ball, he's actually looking 2 or 3 plays ahead. And we don't have many players that actually do that. Bruno does it as well. Pogba, to a certain extent, does it too. He's picking out kind of that longer ball and then seeing what can happen after that. But you look at Donny and he wants those 1-2s, play the next play.
Them as well. They play well together.
Yeah, so he knows exactly what he wants to do. Look, I think it's just one of those that the midfielder that we were going to bring in the summer, which was Donny, was always going to be a rotation player. Because think about it, at the start of the season, who was everybody saying the midfield should be? Matic, Pogba, and Bruno. Nobody was really mentioning Donny to start. We were like, he'd be a rotation player to come in. The problem is, I think early on when he was playing, he was okay. He wasn't being one of the best players on the pitch. And when you come into a new side with players like Bruno Fernandes, you have to show up and you have to basically tell the manager that I'm playing. Because I said this, about a month ago about Pogba when we were saying, does he deserve to start? Well, the first thing I said was, you have to show the manager you deserve to start. Then Pogba played really well in 2 or 3 games, and now you're seeing him play more. I think Donny needs to do that. He needs to be a reason that United win a game. If that happens, he'll start to see his playing time go up. I hate to admit it, but the more competitions, especially with the Europa League now, the more minutes he's going to get to play with these players. He's had it tough. I think people are forgetting as well, as before he joined United, Ajax didn't get to play. They stopped in March. So he went a long time without playing football. So it's only natural for him to not be at that same level, especially going into a new side. It's not easy. So you have to commend him as well, because I think he's been good in many of the games he's played. He just hasn't been that kind of the person that is the one that wins you the game. And it doesn't have to be scoring the goal or making the assist, but you're the one that drives the team forward. I don't think I've seen enough of that from Donny van de Beek. We saw him for Ajax win them games. And when we see that Donny play for United, that's when I think he'll get more games.
And he won Ajax games in the Champions League. That's a big thing. He did it on the highest. I mean, absolutely spot on, Ciaran. I think that's a very, very fair assessment. Mark, I'll come to you for the final word on that before we quickly preview in the last 10 minutes the Leicester game.
I think ultimately, we've spoken about this a lot of times. Going forward, the long-term plan isn't to have 2 holding midfielders. I think that Ollie doesn't trust his defence. I think he doesn't necessarily trust his holding midfielders, and that's why he plays 2 a lot, apart from Matic. And therefore, you've only got 1 space for an attacking midfielder. So I think, obviously, we've seen in the last few days that United are very interested in Moises Caicedo. Yeah. A defensive midfielder, something going forward. Caicedo, thank you. I knew someone was going to pick
you got the hard one wrong. I was like, is it Moses? Is it Moises? Caicedo.
I always say Grealish as well, not Grealish. I'm really bad with pronunciations. But anyway,
Grealish, mate.
we are digressing. My point is when we do get a stable defensive midfielder that everyone's happy with, we've shored up the defence, then there's going to be an opportunity for 2 players. I think we know Pogba's probably not going to stay around. I think it's very, very unlikely. Therefore, you've got Donny and you've got Bruno to play those 2 positions.
Absolutely. And my last word on that. The thing is, though, I still think that if Ollie had his way, and you can see that with his selections, Pogba would be one of the first names on his team sheet if he's training hard and playing well because of the quality he can give. I think United have. It's no surprise since Pogba's come back into the side. I know this might be a bit controversial, but United are putting some of the better performances. He gives United more quality from deep. That's really important because what was happening is that we know this already. Fred McTominay, very, very hardworking, excellent in the big games in terms of their discipline, but we couldn't get forward and we couldn't score goals. But Pogba's come back in the side and we're scoring goals, scoring a lot of goals. I know we scored 6 without Pogba the other day. Joe, I can see you want to say something there.
Yeah, I just want to say, Haider, I think you're absolutely spot on. And I think if you look at right back to when Solskjaer first came in, look at how well Pogba played in that initial period as well when Solskjaer came in. And I think one of his jobs since he's come to the club is to try and make Paul Pogba fall in love with Man United again. I actually think it's something that he's really tried to do. I think he came into United. Remember, Pogba was at an all-time low when Mourinho had gone. They'd had some public bust-ups. It was obvious that things weren't right there. He wanted to go then. And I think Ollie would have loved it if he could have been the man that made Pogba fall in love with Manchester United. And you think there was times when you think he was so close and then it just seems to go again. I mean, he had that good run of form when Solskjaer first came in. And I think everyone said then, will he sign a new contract then? And then it sort of went away, and then there was all this talk in the summer that he wanted that summer that he wanted to go, and then we had another time, obviously, when COVID struck, that we thought we might get him to sign a new contract, and then obviously just again recently now that looks like it's just fell at the last hurdle again. So I actually think it's been one of Solskjaer's main objectives since he's come to the club is actually to try and get the best out of Paul Pogba and get him enjoying his time at Manchester United and getting him to see what it's all about being a Man United player. And we won't know until it's finalised what's happening with Pogba, whether Solskjaer was successful at that or not. But if he wasn't, no worries. Life goes on. Manchester United goes on, and Ollie will go on. But it'd be lovely if he could just. We don't know where Ollie's future is, but wouldn't it be nice if Ollie has to hand this job over to somebody else one day? If we've actually one thing that's come out of it, that we've actually got a prime Paul Pogba and a Paul Pogba that can see success at this club and wants to continue with us.
Absolutely. Guys, we're going to finish off quickly, a couple minutes each. Thoughts on the Leicester game on Boxing Day. It doesn't feel like Christmas, does it really? I mean, I'm sitting there obviously in my stormtrooper outfit, and it just feels odd. But we got United back on, what day is it? Saturday. See, I've just off count of days. But Ciaran, talk to me about your thoughts quickly on the Leicester game. What do you expect from United? Do you expect us to sit back and hit them on the counter?
It's always, I think the game after Christmas is always really tough because you don't know how the players have kind of done in the last day. You always see some random scores at Christmas. Yeah, I'd expect what we've seen from Leicester against kind of some of the bigger sides, that where they kind of want to sit back a little bit, let the other teams take more of the possession. Problem is, Leicester have just got back some of their key players. We saw it last week with Ndidi as well. It's going to be a very tough game. It's one of the really hard games to call. I think it's one of the key games over the next couple of weeks for United. If they win that one, I think they put themselves in a really good position kind of going into the new year. It's really hard. Like, even trying to think of a prediction for it is very tough because it's one game that can go in so many ways. We've seen Leicester at times this season be absolutely breathtaking. You saw it against City where they ripped City apart at once. Kind of City basically stopped defending in that game. That's what worries me about the game, because at times our defending in the Premier League has been really, really bad. And with the likes of Vardy, and if they're playing on top form, we could really struggle against them. But then we've seen Leicester play very poorly in the Premier League as well.
3-0.
Exactly. So I think they're one of the really weird teams. And we've seen it for a lot of teams that are really good and really bad. I just think that what the players need to do, if they can just keep up the intensity that we've seen the last two games, even if it becomes a tough game, you don't win it, at least we can go out and say, well, look, we're actually seeing progress here. Because the last couple of games, I think you can actually see, like Ollie said from the start, that they're getting fitter, they're getting better. We're now starting to see that production actually on the field, and that hopefully that is what continues, and that's what I'll be looking out for.
Yeah, good point. Umka's very, very chilled. 3-1, mate. No worries. I love that positivity.
Very good.
Yeah, I love that. Lokesh is saying Leicester will sit back. That's what they've done this year, Joe, haven't they? They've any Brendan Rodgers team is known for being good at possession, aesthetically pleasing side. But what you've seen from Leicester this season, they've been much more pragmatic and actually, I think, a lot smarter. And you saw last week against Spurs. I mean, Spurs were very negative. Very, very negative. But Leicester finding ways to win. And Kieran's right. They've got Ndidi back. Castagne's back. They've got a very good side. James Maddison's hit some form again. I mean, he completely fell off a cliff, didn't he, when he was linked to United? Lovely player. I really do like him, actually. Obviously, there's no need for him at United, but I think he's a wonderful player. Him and Grealish are always two players that I really like. They're going to be a threat, aren't they? But Kieran's right. You don't know what Leicester's going to turn up.
You don't, and obviously there's still some question marks over Jamie Vardy, I think, for the game, isn't there? Because obviously he came off, I think, against Tottenham, and I think we're still not 100% sure. And he's integral to their options that they'll have in terms of the way they play. If they play with Vardy, then obviously, like Ciaran said earlier, they're set up perfectly for the counter-attack in a way with his pace and stuff. But if Haider doesn't play, will they go for a more possession-based thing? I mean, their own form's up there with ours this season. Or should I say down there with ours? I think they've lost 5 games all season. I think 4 of them have been at home, haven't they? So I think they've struggled at home like we have as well. So it might help us that the fact that we're away. But then again, maybe we shouldn't look at form too much in this one because, like you say, like Ciaran said, that they're a different team now to what they've been for many of those home games. They've got players back now that they didn't have then. Obviously, Castagna, like you say, is a fantastic left back, and we were talking about fullbacks earlier. I think Leicester's are miles better than ours when they're at full strength. You know, Pereira on one side, Castagna on the other one. So, yeah. So look, it depends how they go about it. I mean, I want to see United start quickly, though, whether that be, you know, with intent on the counter or if they're going to start quickly with the ball. Start quickly. Let's keep this good habit up. I don't know what they've done in the last 2 games in terms of their preparation and the way they want to start it. I don't know if it's been down to opposition. You could say with Leeds it was probably down to opposition because you know what you're going to get. But with Everton, there was they could have been an excuse for being a little bit slower out the blocks, but they were at it again as well. So you just wonder whether they've changed something pre-match routine. Let's keep that going because even if you're playing counter-attack, you can still play with intent. You know, you can still look to get that ball higher up the pitch, win it higher up the pitch, so that you're not counter-attacking from so far out. So I think whichever way United go about it, the key is a fast start again. Because I think if United start quickly like that with the players that they've got in that attacking front line, they'll frighten anybody's defence.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I actually completely agree with the point as well about the intensity. Leeds, we started fantastically well, 2-0 within 3 minutes. Today, I actually thought we were better. It was just the whole quality of football for that first 30 minutes. I was really enjoying it. And I was like, this is fantastic. We just need to put the ball in the back of the net. But you're seeing something different from United. They're not starting slowly, which is our biggest gripe on this show, let's be honest. All of us were just so frustrated. Mark, I'm going to come to you, Mr. Positive. Final word for the listeners. Talk to me about how you're feeling and talk to me about how looking forward you are for the weekend against Leicester.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. I think, roll back 6 months, we were talking about how Man United were very much a counter-attacking team. Now, if you look at the teams that actually sit back, other than Palace, we've actually performed very well, and I don't think that that's necessarily a problem. And Tottenham, yeah, well, Tottenham too, but that was the game changer for us, wasn't it? That was the big change. And I feel that, you know, we've kind of answered those questions and we can set up to counter-attack or to really go at them. And as the boys have rightly said, the last couple of games we've started brilliantly on the front foot. We need to look to put them on the back foot. And I really think that, you know, it's an opportunity for us. I think everyone is going to have firmly in their mind that they're on a good run. We're playing very well. We've won many games on the bounce now, and we're in a good run of form, and nobody is going to want to ruin that. So I think that Ollie will be very much aware of it. The players will, and I'm hopeful. I do feel that Leicester could be vulnerable, and hopefully we'll get the win.
Absolutely. And my final words, guys, it's been one hell of a year. And Man United have given us some of our best moments. And there's been some not so good moments. But what I will say is, on the final positive point, Ollie's really getting a tune out of the boys. The results are much better. You know, we're looking at 6 wins out of 7 in the Premier League, 1 draw in that. United are in the semi-final. The players are starting to hit form now. I'm excited. I'm really excited for the new year. Joe, Ciaran, and Mark, thank you very much. Have a lovely Christmas, lads. And to all the fantastic listeners, have a great Christmas. We've got the masterclass after the Leicester game, show after the Leicester game, and after the next few games. We should be back next week, I believe. So make sure you stay tuned. Have a lovely Christmas, and we'll see you then.